Just waiting for the stream to come on. I think it's starting now. I'll just wait for that to refresh. There we go. Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Coffee and Code. My name is Peter Fisher. I'm a UK-based freelance web and mobile applications developer, host of the How to Code Well YouTube channel. And today we're going to be moving the How to Code Well website a little further. We were talking about that in the last couple of episodes. But before I do that, I just want to talk about some bits and pieces that I've been getting up to myself. So first of all, this time of the year is, with everyone, it's extremely busy. Extremely busy. Christmas is kind of like a set of goalposts that kind of are looming at you. A lot of people like to plan things to be done by the Christmas break. And that is also true to YouTubers as well. So there's a lot of things that I am doing now in order to lay the foundations for next year. So for anyone who doesn't know, the How to Code Well YouTube channel does a tutorial every Tuesday, which is a programming tutorial. Been focusing on MySQL, focusing on PHP, but I've got tutorials on Docker and Linux and HTML and blah blah blah, basically anything web development related, even Jekyll. And the Friday, it's a chat, so it's a web chat about something that I care about. Oh, hang on, my live stream is trying to refresh. Hopefully it hasn't fallen down, but I'll just continue. So the Fridays is a web chat, right? So it's talking about something that interests me to do with web development and what I think where web development is going and all of that kind of stuff. And then here we do a live stream where I use this time to talk about stuff that I want to achieve in sort of like a side project. And I try and do that, one of which is this How to Code Well website that I'm trying to produce. But also October, November, December is cramming in ideas and planning for next year. So I'm going to put it out there. If anybody wants to me to cover some topics, some certain specific topics in web development, whether it's a tutorial, whether it's learning a new language, that kind of thing, then do let me know. Or whether you want me to talk about something specific in web development, maybe it's virtual reality, maybe it's augmented reality, maybe it's search, maybe it's SEO, whatever. Do let me know, and then that gives me time to plan and schedule that in. So do jump on. My Twitter handle, Facebook feed, Instagram, all of that stuff, it's all displayed up there. So just drop me a line and say, you know what, this might be a good idea. So I've planning all of that stuff. Planning, basically, when you've got YouTube videos, it's it's very sort of, well, it's as stringent and as loose as you want it to be, really. But I try and plan months in advance for videos that I plan to do. So I have like no, I wouldn't say a storyboard, but I would say like a schedule of things that I want to sort of talk about, and then hopefully that comes across as more of a flowing type thing. Also, I have several courses on Skillshare and Udemy that I've been working on as well, plus Manning Publications. We have the Docker in Motion course there, so that's a large course that I'm currently progressing through. So there's all sorts of things, as well as just being a freelancer with a lot of freelancey type stuff. Obviously the clients and code and issues with their systems that I have to deal with and all of that stuff. And just like me, they obviously see that Christmas is a very busy time too. So yeah, basically the takeaway there is I'm extremely busy. Now last year I didn't really cope very well. Basically I burnt myself out. I got to sort of December and I crashed. The thing is that when you slow down and you force yourself to go on a holiday such as Christmas, all the bugs and germs that I accumulated went, oh, okay, you're having a bit of downtime. Let's now jump on you. So what I've been doing is I've acknowledged this, and what I've done is I've been drinking a lot of these. I don't know if you can see. Let me just hold it up to the thing. I don't know if you can see over the red stripes here, but this is a smoothie. I've been drinking one of these every week, and if you've watched the previous the streams, you'll know that I've been very ill recently, and I wanted to put an end to that. So this is a kale. It sounds disgusting, but believe you me, it does taste nice. It's kale, spinach. What else is in here? A banana. It's and I think 3, maybe 2 satsumas. So it's really sharp. And I've been drinking something like this, similar to this, every day. Some of it's had pineapple in, some of it's even had tomato in, and yeah. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I won't burn myself out and just sort of fall on my face when I'm pulling the cracker over the dinner table with my family this year. Also, sleep is something that I'm trying to consciously make an effort to reap back more sleep. Whatever. This isn't a health show. I just wanted to talk about that because this is something that a lot of developers go through, burnout, and it's something that we must acknowledge before it burns us out, right? And it usually happens at the wrong time. So anyway, that is that. I am extremely busy, as I'm pretty sure a lot of you are. This time of year is pretty crazy. But this is Coffee and Code, so I do have a cup of coffee in my Run PHP mug, which is pretty awesome. It's actually getting a bit cold now, but that's cool. So we're going to dive in, and we're going to talk about the How to Code Well website that we've been producing. We made some decisions on that. Basically, I'm trying to treat this like a normal project. What is a normal project? Okay, so what I've done is I created the last few streams. Let me try and find it now. Here we go. Let's bring that up. So what I've done is I've created this Trello board, right? And we did this in like a couple of streams ago. Now I've been thinking about this, and there is stuff that I have been working on the Symfony site. This is Symfony 3 site, and I have been thinking about this a little bit with all of the pressures of everything else that I've got, right? And I was just thinking, is there a way to define a bare minimum of requirements, or something that that I will see as acceptable, and by removing a lot of hard work first. Basically, what I want to try and do is scale it down, the first iteration, the first release, to something that is just acceptable. So this, for anyone who doesn't know, this builds the How to Code Well website. Let me just see if I can find that. Also, if anyone is watching this and they aren't hearing me right, or they're not seeing me right, or whatever, do shout, because I have been tweaking the audio a bit. So do let me know. Be interested to know if those tweaks actually worked. Let's see now in the in here in the browser. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Where are you, Safari? Bingo. So this is what it looks like at the moment, right? It's certainly not going to look like this when it's done. This is just very flat HTML. It's just a very simple set of tabs. Now, there's no framework applied here, apart from obviously Symfony. But what I mean is there's no jQuery here. It is just literally JavaScript that I've produced. Or at least I found actually from GitHub, and I have molded it into my own sort of needs. But this isn't how I want it to be, right? I want it to be a proper website with proper pages and all of that stuff. This is very hidden, and I don't like it. But as a holding page, it's fine. So I'm happy to keep that on there until it's ready for the next version. So you can kind of see this as like, I don't know, you would call this version 1, right? So the next version, version 2, what are the minimum requirements that I will see as acceptable for this to happen? And if we went back to, oh gosh, I've lost all of my windows. This isn't good. Where are you, OBS? There we go. And I want that up. And I want that up. There we go. So if we look at this is the Trello board. We've broken this up to nice to haves, requirements, to do, working, done, and bugs, blah, 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 blah. Now, in the requirements, this is the stuff that are, I suppose, is required for the next version, the next iteration. So responsive for mobile, yes, definitely. Newsletter sign up, yes, definitely. Now, there is a question mark in my mind about the admin area. The admin area, for me, will enable me to add courses, add videos, see users, and create a shop, right? That is actually quite a large piece of work, and I did say beforehand that this will hopefully be only 6 months worth of work. I mean, hey, I build sites quicker than this, but for clients who pay me money, right? This is just something that I have been doing, in my free time, and you've seen the state of it already. So, it's a slow burner. So that's why I've put on that 6-month thing. But I think with the removal of some of these requirements, we can focus on other things, and we can scale it down and still have a semi-acceptable website. Now, one thing that I could scale back is the content management system, because let's face it, I don't actually have a huge, and I'm talking hundreds of courses. I only have under 10 at the moment. Obviously, I would like to have more, and I can see myself in the future having more, but I think 10 or under 10 at least is an acceptable amount of data to hard code before you need to have a content management system. Basically, I think what I'm going to find is if I was to focus on a content management system now, then I will build a beautiful content management system, fine, but I won't actually have a website to have content on. Does that make sense? It's the argument of, do you focus on the front end first when you first get a specification? Do you focus on the front end? Do you focus on the back end and the data? Now, I usually, as a back end developer, I usually focus on the back end. Obviously, I do a lot of APIs. I do a lot of content management systems, a lot of CRM systems, and all of that stuff. That is my sort of bread and butter, if you will, as well as all the mobile bits and pieces too. But for something this small, and I would probably say that you should term this as a microsite, right? I would obviously like it to be a fully fledged website, but it's actually at the moment, it's a microsite. It's got only a handful of courses. It's got a handful of information that I would like to put out, and it isn't necessarily going to be overly dynamic, at least in the first iteration. So this is a common, and I have said that I want to treat this like a normal project. I want to treat this like I am my own client. And usually what happens with in the freelance world is that a client comes with perhaps not even a specification, but just a dream, right? Of a product that they want to, or a website or a system that they want me to build. And because they aren't or some of them aren't necessarily technically aware, they perhaps overstep the mark when it comes to estimates. So they assume that things are going to be really quick, or they might assume that the quick things take really long, or the long things take really quick, or whatever. And so you have that sort of like iterative process of, let's keep refining the product requirement document. Let's keep going over what actually is the minimum requirements for initial release, and then what are the minimum requirements after that, and after that, and after that. And what I would like to have, I mean, ideally what you have in these big organizations is like a monthly or a weekly or a daily or an hourly release schedule, right? So like a continual delivery. But in each of those releases, there is a designated amount of updates and features and bug fixes. So initially when the client comes to you and says, I want to have this shopping list of stuff done, you say, okay, you can either quote huge amounts of money, because it's going to take a huge amount of time, and then scare the client off, or you can say, listen, what is your basic needs? And let's focus on that first, because often what I find is that the stuff that the client wants now isn't necessarily what the client wants in 2 years, in 5 years, even in 3 months' time after the project's gone live. They go, actually, we thought that was a great feature. We know it's taken you a long time to do, but we don't actually need it. Or we've decided to alter how that feature works, or whatever. We've had another business idea, right? So the requirements evolve. So the point I want to make is that it's always good to try and refine and get those requirements down and as proper bare metal as possible. So you definitely know exactly what you're doing. The client knows exactly what you're doing. There is a level of transparency, and this, I think, is where I am in my head with this website, because there is a lot of things in this requirements section that I'm starting to think as they're not actually requirements for the first iteration. These should actually be in the nice to haves. So I don't need to have a course manager. I don't need to have a user manager. I don't need to have an admin area in the first instance. What I could do is design the website and actually have some basic content that I feel acceptable and put that out as a static website first. And I know that we've talked about static websites, whether this is going to be a static website, and I said no, because I wanted it to be a dynamic website. But there is no reason why it can't be a static website first, okay? A lot of people go, oh, it's going to be built in Jekyll, so it must be static. Symfony can do a static site. That's fine. That is fine. As a next iteration, I think that is perfectly acceptable. I don't need to have an admin area straight away. That is something, and I think what I'll find is I'll be working through the back-end code, building that up, but I won't actually have anything to release. Or I will release that, but I won't have a front end, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's a toss-up, and there's only one of me, right? Usually what happens is I start working in a team of people where you have a front end. Maybe the front end's already been developed. Maybe there is a design that has already been thought of. But of course, this project is just me. So I don't think that, I certainly don't think in the initial stages we need to have any of this. However, using Trello in this manner is really good because you have the ability to record your thought process. So what I'm going to do is move some things around first, and then we're going to be focusing, narrowing down what it is that we want to achieve today. So just bear with me a minute. I'm going to grab some coffee because I've rambled on for a bit. That is getting a bit cold now. That is not nice. Hi, oh gosh, you guys, I said this before, you have the most obscurest usernames. I like to say hello to people, and Zen NHUHS. Hello. Hi, yes, so this is going to be in Symfony 3, so this is a PHP site. I'm a PHP developer. I do know other languages. I've actually started learning in the very limited spare time, Rust, which is really interesting. I have no need to use Rust at the moment, but I think that is an interesting language to learn. I do a lot of JavaScript, so we're talking Alloy.js and all of that stuff. MVC, yeah, model view controller, yeah. So this will be a model view controller. This will have a series of controllers. The views are going to be in Twig, and we will have a database, probably a MySQL database. I don't think it needs to be. I don't think NoSQL will help with this, and so I think it's going to be MySQL. I will also have this in Docker, but again, I think Docker is something that doesn't necessarily need to be in place straight away, especially for when you remove the need for a backend in the initial release, you remove the need for a database, which means that you remove the need for having multiple containers. So you don't need to have a web server. You don't need you obviously need a web server, but it's going to be hosted on a web server, right? So there isn't a massive need to worry too much about the hardware requirements, the software requirements, the actual the nuts and bolts, right? So because I'm doing it in PHP 7 doesn't mean that I can't host it on a PHP 5 site, right? In the sense that at the moment, it's just going to be HTML. Obviously, one restriction is PHP 7, Symfony 3, which obviously has its own set of requirements. But I suppose that's always good to have that sort of foundation. Do you have any specific questions on MVC? I'll be happy to answer that. Or, as I said before, I'll be happy to schedule any questions in the future web chats that I do, because I do like talking about these kind of things in more granular detail. So we have this Trello board, and this is where I rely. I mean, I use Jira a lot with my clients, and so this is where I find it very difficult to use Trello. I'm using Trello because I think it forces you to be simplistic, and I don't have access to a private Jira account where I can demonstrate some bits and pieces. So I thought Trello would just be easier to throw together. I also use Trello to plan, to schedule tutorials and web chats and so forth on my How to Code Well YouTube channel. So I just thought, hey, let's use it. Okay, so just going back to the chat. So I'm going to just call you Zunu, all right? So Zunu has said, I'm a beginner on MVC, and I did register a page, but I want to do every account have a single page, but I don't know how to do it. Okay, let me take that away, and let me think about how I can demonstrate that as a perhaps a video. Maybe if you get in contact with me on Twitter, I might be able to give you some one-to-one perhaps on that. It's something that I'm not. Maybe I'll focus on that today. Let me just. I'll put that in the back of my mind, and we'll continue, and maybe that's something that I'll look to do later. But the reason why I said that is because I archive these streams every Monday, or I try to at least, on the YouTube, because Twitter, what am I talking about? Twitch seems to delete your streams every 2 weeks, which I think is a bit odd. I guess that's a different sort of genre of video that I'm not into. So whatever, I like to keep an archive of things. So this will be on How to Code Well channel, hopefully Monday if I have time to do it. But anyway, let's get back to the show. So responsive for mobile, yes. Newsletter, yes. Admin login sign up, I'm going to put that as a nice to have. And again, we have create login page, create sign up page. So my head there was to do that for the front end, to have an actual user area, and we have a nice to have here for forums as well. So that might be a possibility of combining these three. And this is, again, when you break up a project into these little tasks, you can kind of see common areas of work, right? So, and so you might be able to kill two birds with one stone in that sort of saying. So admin area, nice to have, boom, which means that all of these are nice to have as well. It's actually quite a relief to do that. You know, you see your list of requirements getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller in more of an acceptable sprint. So I guess you could call this as like maybe a first sprint. Although, to be honest, the amount of time that I can actually throw on this project, I don't think I would like to use the agile terminology of sprint, because sprints usually are far shorter than what I can do. So grid view for YouTube playlists, list view for YouTube playlists, you might as well only have the one. And I think probably list view is better for the initial one, so I'm going to bring that down. Minified resources, definitely. Nightly backups, definitely. Okay, so they're the requirements, but I haven't actually talked about what pages I need on the website. Usually what I get given is like a couple of A4 pieces of paper which describe the project. I'm basically making this up as I go along. I have an idea of what I want to achieve, but it's still in flux, right? It's still in flux. Perhaps I need to actually write down a proper PRD for myself to keep schedule. But again, it's only me. I don't have a lot of time doing this, so there will be little areas of corners that I will be cutting in order to just save time, because usually those PRDs go off to other parts of the business to get approval and sign off before they come to me. And of course, it's just me, so there's no need for any of that. But what I will do is consider what content is needed, what pages are needed, and all of that stuff. So maybe I'll be adding some bits and pieces to this later on. To-dos, again, we don't need to do the database schema straight away. We don't need to create any fixes straight away, so I'm going to put them over there. Integrate Python YouTube download script. So I have my own Python script that hangs off the back of the YouTube API. It works on my blog, which is peterfisher.me.uk, and it works pretty well. So whenever I publish something to YouTube, I run a Python script that downloads all of the meta information for the YouTube videos in JSON format, and then I can loop through all of that in PHP and spit that out as, videos and embed them and stuff. So I might just use that. That script, it's written in a WordPress way at the moment, so there will be some work around that. But I think for now, I will probably, as it's just being hard coded, I think I might just leave a lot of the videos out for the first initial release at least. But I think I'll keep that in there just as a consideration. Create a Docker repo and create a pipeline, create a Jenkins server. All of these things I believe do need to happen. And what I'm considering is actually investing in some hardware, even more hardware, and in this office where I can do all of these things locally. I usually use remote services to do this. And I think that I want to keep this project internal as much as I can. So I need to think about the investments for hardware and stuff. I want to create myself like a Jenkins testing laboratory here in the office. I do have some. I've certainly got one on this iMac, but again, it's going to be very tricky to do that whilst live streaming. So I need to think about sort of decoupling bits of my infrastructure in this office. So I will be doing those, but they're kind of down the chain. Create a Docker image for the database server. Don't need to do that right now because we don't have a backend. Create a Docker image for the web server. Again, don't need to do that because what we're going to focus on is just a static representation at the moment of a website. Create the build server. So definitely going to be doing all of those things. Don't need a Docker repo because we're not focusing on Docker straight away. Create the gulp script, definitely. And we're going to leave that in there too. Now, there's other things that I want to add to these. Perhaps we'll do those as we go along. I'm going to create of something in here on what I'm going to be working on today, and that is working on, well, first of all, it is remove old code, because I need to do that, and also, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Next one is build routing for pages. Now I need to decide the pages that I need to do, that I'm going to include. But what I also would like to do is test pages. And I should probably add some more information to those. But what where my head is at the moment is I want to create a bunch of routes. This might actually fall into play with what you were asking. Volume up my mic. Is it a little bit quiet? Let me see. Bear with me a minute, guys. Yeah, it just seemed a little bit quiet. Let me turn up the gain on that. Is that slightly better? So I've turned up the gain on the mic. Let me see. Properties. Okay, so I twiddled that a little bit. I don't like doing these things when I'm streaming. Anyway, so what I would like to do is build some routing, build some pages, and test them. And I would like to try and achieve to do this in a sort of a test-driven development kind of way. So we write perhaps some functional tests, and those tests will test and ensure that the pages are actually active. So the first thing I need to do is decide what pages we need, and then write tests for those pages, then create those pages, run the tests again, and there you go. Hopefully that will work. And like I said, I haven't really decided on the content of what's going to be in each page. So the quickest and dirtiest way you can test whether a page is working is to check the HTTP code, right? So if it's a 200 OK, then that page has has responded correctly. If it's a 500, it's an internal error. If it's a 404, then it doesn't exist. So in the test-driven development sense, the pages should all 404, right? Because you haven't created any pages first. Then when you start creating pages, they should be 200 OK. That is kind of the very bare minimum to make sure that a page is actually sort of working. Sort of working. All right. It doesn't have any content on there, obviously, but the actual route is active. So that is kind of what I want to focus on today. Also, I want to remove some old code because I've got some old code that I'm lying around that I just want to get rid of. Let me have a drink. A drink that you have to chew. So, let me go back to here. Right, I'm just going to rig some things up. Bear with me a minute. Let me see. So, in the browser here, this is that's the actual live website, but I'm going to spin it up in the PHP Zone Server here, and that's the beauty of PHP. It has its own internal server. In fact, Symfony has a bolt onto the Symfony server, to the PHP server, which means that you don't need to have Docker. It means that you don't have to have your own virtual server sorted out, especially for this initial basic iteration, basic release. Okay, next release will be a lot more probably DevOps related, because we'll have will be at least considering the database, considering the backend, and those things require MySQL. Those things will require Docker. Okay, so anyway, I've rambled on far too long. Let me get some coding actually done. Let's go back into here. You can have to bear with me a mo, because I seriously need to get a second screen in here. Does my microphone sound all right? Can someone just say yes or no? Let me see. So, right. So there we go. In the terminal, and we are in here, and the way I've configured this is that we have the old code which was in web, and it's just a basic index page, and I was going to do like an Apache folder, and in here we have the site. The reason why I've done this is because thinking ahead, it's going to have MySQL. It might even have other services and stuff, and I like to keep them in separate folders. And with Docker, you have to send a build context to Docker to build. So in this Apache folder, we would have a Docker file, and we will be copying the site folder into that as a virtual host, as a document root. Sorry, but we don't need to worry about that too much. But I'm slowly getting my just forward thinking kind of. So okay, so we've got a load of stuff that I would like to remove. Let's just go back here and do an ls. We are in the web, for example. I think there's a bunch of stuff in here that I just want to get rid of. Because let me just go back to here. Let me just cat out index. So that is the basic index page, and I believe if I scroll to the top, it is that's a bit too far. Copying, it's copying a bunch of, it's including a bunch of stuff. So anyway, I think I can get rid of that, but I just want to test that out first. So let's go back to. Whoops, that's not good. Let's do an ls. Let's clear down the screen to make some room. Is that? It doesn't appear to. That's really peculiar. It doesn't appear to. The my stream doesn't appear to have any of that that terminal output. That is very bizarre. Let me see if I can just load this up again. Bear with me a minute, guys. I do apologize. Let me see. Can I do another tab on that? Is that going to open up another tab? No. Let's bring that down a wee bit. So that is that. What? This is very weird. Hold on. I'm comparing what I can see to the stream, and I can't see anything going into this terminal window. Oh, hang on, that went down. So can you do? Is there going to be an ls here? It's got a very big delay. That's so peculiar. It's not actually printing out that. I'm going to just start this terminal up again. So just bear with me a mo. It'll probably disappear, and then I'll have to put it back in again. So let's just remove. Yeah, let's bring another terminal window in. It's a new window. Let's put it in default here. Let's just jump on to where I need to be. Sorry, guys. This is really embarrassing. I should have got this sorted, or at least tested it before I went on. So I want to be in this directory, and I want to be in that website. Let's clear down that. Okay, let me see if that works. Let's just remove that from here. Change the properties of this. me see. LS, LD. Yeah, that came through. How bizarre. Right, let me just change the size of this. This is annoying. That's too wide. Oh, technology. It's great when it works. Let me bring that up a bit. Make it a little bit bigger. And bring that down. Bring that in. Make that a little bit wider because I can't work in that small space. There we go. Right, I think, hopefully now, if I did an LS, yeah, there we go. Right, so what I was showing, or trying to show, let me go back to make sure that that is actually working here. Hopefully this is going to catch up. Just checking the video preview. Yeah, okay, cool. So what I was trying to show was the structure of the website currently. And in this LS window, we can see that we have the Apache folder. That Apache folder will have the document, the Docker file. And if we went into Apache here, we have the site. The site is the Symfony site. So I have a Docker file here. We'll be able to send this up as the build context. The idea is that we have another folder called MySQL or whatever it's going to be in the root directory. With its own Docker file and so forth. So I'm basically just thinking ahead. Okay, whoops. No, that's gone too far. Here we go. Clear that down. Right. So the first thing I need to do is go into Apache and go into the site and run the web server. And the web server can actually be ran as just a normal PHP server, or it can be ran through Symfony, and we might as well just use Symfony because that's what we're using. So to do that, it's Symfony version 3, so I believe I'm doing this from memory. It's PHP bin console, and we want to do server run like that. There we go. So that's now listening on that port, which is 8000. Excellent. Good. So here we go. Right. What I've done is on this tab, if I can find it, in here, we can see that I've just got the website running in Symfony. So this is the Symfony representation of what this website is. Okay. Now, this works fine. This is good. But I want to talk about the roots. I want to talk about the pages and stuff, or at least develop some of those bits and pieces today. So it won't look like this. It certainly won't look like this, which is fine. So what I'm going to do, we can just come back here, is start removing the old code. And the old code, if I go back into the terminal, let's just, can I bring another thing up? Yeah. So the old code is, let's cd, all right, I'll do it from here. That's probably easiest. Let's close that down. So the old code is in this directory. So it's index and web. Let me clear that down, do an ls. So I can do an rm, and we're going to do a -rv of index and web. And that will remove all of those things. And I can go into the Apache site, go into site like that, clear that down. Let's just do a reverse search because I'm lazy and just type in run. There we go. I go back into the browser, refresh, and that should now still be where it is. That's fine. I just wanted to double check that there wasn't anything referencing that old stuff. So that's cool, which means that, hooray, we can now go into the Trello board again, which is this tab, and I can remove the, that is now done. Fantastic. That's the first one. Now we're going to be focusing on this one, the build routing for pages. Just going to grab a drink. So it's obviously going to need a home page. I would like it to have a shop page. I would like it to have a courses page. I would like it to have a contacts page. I would like it to have a YouTube page. So I think they're kind of like the primary pages, if you will. Courses, we're going to have sub pages like Skillshare, Udemy, that kind of thing. Manning. We're in the shop. There's going to be links to certain programming resources that I've been asked to put on by various people, and the contacts page will be obviously might be a contacts form, but straight away it could just be a mail to, perhaps, as a first iteration type step. So what I would like to do is create these pages, but like I said, in a TDD kind of way, in a test-driven development kind of way, where we have a bunch of tests to ensure that these pages actually exist. And obviously they don't right now, so we're going to create a bunch of failing tests. Now, if this was me like a year ago, I would have used PHP unit straight off the bat. This would be exactly what I would be doing, writing some PHP unit functional tests for this, hooking into Symfony, hooking into the kernel, and all of that stuff. But there is another kid on the block, has been on the block for a while, called Codeception. Now, I have used Codeception. I used that with some of my clients, and I would like to, I prefer that. I prefer Codeception to raw PHP unit. Codeception actually hangs on top of, or below of, or on top of, I don't know how you could call that. It uses PHP unit. It uses PHP unit, so the barrier of entry is nice and small. However, there is a bit of faffing around to do with configuration, so you might have to just bear with me whilst I set things up. But initially, what I would like to achieve today is to have some of those top level pages tested and perhaps even created. So have some failing tests and then have some working tests. Again, I don't have any idea on the actual content that I would like to do, the actual copy. I need to think about that. I need to probably think about that over Christmas. But at least having the skeleton structure of the pages is certainly good. So what I would like to do here is just do a checklist, and that checklist will just define what pages I'm actually going to be creating at the moment. So the first one is going to, well, let's just give this a title. So we're going to do page names, okay? And we're just going to add that. So the first one is going to obviously be the home page, right? There's no qualms about that. Next one is going to be the contacts page, or I say next one. This isn't going to be the order in which those pages are displayed, and I'll be faffing about with that later. Contacts, contact page. Next one is going to be, let me think. So shop, I think is going to be the top level. So I suppose build pages for, build routing for top level pages. Let's define this even more. Top level pages. Okay, so the next one, home, contact, shop, courses. And the other one is going to be YouTube, okay? And I think that, I'm not sure whether I need an about page. I don't know whether the home page could just be the about page or what. I need to consider the copy, like I said, and the layout and the structure and all of this. But initially, I think these are okay. I think these are fine. We might refine it later on. We might add things or remove things later on. But initially, this is kind of where I want to go. So let's just define where these routes should what these routes should be called. So home page equals, if I can spell page, home page equals just slash. Okay, so that is the name. This is the destination. Next, contact page equals. Now, this can be done differently. You could have contact us. You can have contact me. You could have inquiries, whatever. I'm going to keep it nice and simple. I'm just going to have contact. Again, shop. And this, you might think, hey, you know, what's the point in doing this? This is just daft, right? Because this is just going to be /shop. But I think it's always good to have these notes down. I think it's always good to, especially when you're dealing with a client, it's just good to ask these stupid questions because there's going to be no assumptions down the road. So that's shop, not hop. That's shop. Ugh. Shop, fat fingers. Come on, where's the P? There we go. Next one. Is courses is equal to just courses. And YouTube, this is kind of the, I'm unsure about whether it should be how to code well or whether it should just be YouTube. I think we'll just leave it as YouTube for now. But the thing is with courses, do I have courses then Udemy, or do I have courses and then Skillshare, or do I just have courses and then have and not have those sub pages? I don't know. What happens if I want to do another course on another platform, that kind of thing. So I need to think about future-proofing this. So homepage, contact page. Okay, that for now that'll do. That will do for now. Let's save that. Okay, good. Right, let's go back to here. That's all fine. Okay, so now we're actually going to go into the actual core bits of the code. So this is PHP Storm. I hope you guys can see all of that. I put it in presenter mode so we can get rid of that if we need to. It's a bit big. But this is basically the structure of the site. So this is a Symfony 3 site, as I've mentioned. We have the app, the bin, the SRC. The bin is what I was using to load the console to run the server. This is where all the tests are going to be. Then we have our normal standard vendor folder. Something popped up then. We also have var, that's where all the logs and the caching and the sessions and so forth are. And obviously the web, where the web assets live. So we have bundles and other bits and pieces as well. So I would like to, like I said, use Codeception. So I haven't actually mentioned any of that actually in the in Trello. So I should do that. Let's close that down. So test pages. So use Codeception to create functional tests for pages. Save. Okay, so this is what we're going to be focusing on now. I'm going to put that right to the top. The create basic Symfony application, I suppose you can class that as done, so that's fine. So I want to focus on these two today. I hope if you took something away from today, I would hope at least it would be the level of refinement I am trying to achieve to break down something that is a huge, let's build a website, down into today we're going to be focusing on blah. And I think that is extremely important with projects, because you can get very overwhelmed by all of the technical requirements, business requirements. But if you break it down to a very small set of things that you need to achieve on an hourly, on a day-to-day basis, then it's going to, you make your life so much easier. And as a freelancer, with multiple clients, it's all of that stuff is like in your head, and you gotta find a way to break it all down. So anyway, whatever. Rant over. So we're going to be focusing on the testing of this, which is Codeception. So let's go and install Codeception, because Codeception doesn't come as standard on in Symfony, obviously. So let's just have a play. Let's go back into bear with me in here. Let's get these screens running. There we go. Right. So you do that through the composer.json file. Okay. So this is what you've got in the in the normal require section. This is just how Symfony comes at the moment, and this one here is require dev, and so this require dev will only be available for the development environment. Again, this is certainly not, so this won't be for production, right? This is production. This is production and development. All right. So this is the generator bundle, the PHP unit bridge bundle, and what we're going to do in here is have our Codeception, because obviously you wouldn't have that Codeception application or library in this main require, because that is production ready, and you shouldn't be testing on production at all. If you do that, no. So we're going to be altering this by putting in Codeception. Now, you can do this through the command line, which is what I'm going to do and what I generally recommend you should do. You should try and avoid playing with this JSON file, and certainly avoid playing with the lock file, but try and avoid the JSON file as much as possible. There are things that you do need to do. So I think, where is it? Up here. There are things that you need to do, especially with the auto loading and stuff. And if you've got any scripts, then yeah, perhaps you need to put them in here and so forth. But generally, as a general rule, you want to try and keep away from this kind of stuff, because if you screw anything up in here, then by God, you will screw up the site. If you have a spelling mistake in one of these dependencies, ugh. So Composer is fantastic as a dependency management tool, and it's got a very, very good command line interface that you can use to do some bits and pieces. I'm just going to bring up some of my notes here. If I can find them. Yeah. Okay, so this is what we're going to use. Let me just copy that in to here. Where are we? Where has my window gone? There we go. Right. So what I'm going to do is close that down. And we're going to, we are in, if I do an ls, we are in the site. So what I'm going to do is this, and this is basically saying I want to require Codeception, and I want to put it in the development, the require develop section. All right. So if I press enter to this, it should go through all of Codeception's dependencies, compare them against all the dependencies that I currently have in the in Composer, and then do its magic. So hopefully this will work. I always get a bit sort of cautious when I'm doing these kind of scripty typey things when I'm streaming. I was doing a lot of stuff Docker-wise not so long ago, and I thought it froze. So I said that Codeception requires PHP unit, and therefore we're getting a load of PHP unit stuff. We're also getting a bunch of other bits and pieces as well. A lot of Guzzle stuff, a lot of web drivers. We've even got Gherkin as well, which is another useful way of explaining tests, behavioral tests, and so forth. So that's been installed. Now, if we go back to where are we? If I can find my way around my own machine, that's just jumped up, and now we have this Codeception in here. Okay, so I haven't touched this file, and I haven't needed to touch the file to install Codeception. That's the point I want to make. If you can try and get away from altering this, then that is great. As you can probably tell, I'm a fan of the command line. If I can do something in the command line, then I'll do it in the command line. So yeah, so that's cool. All right, so that has been installed. Now we need to configure it. So I'm just going to check my notes again. I'm just going to grab another drink. I'll tell you what, drinking these smoothies has really made me feel far better in myself. I know that sounds really sort of hipsterish, but it's so different from the other, from the way I was, the slug feeling that you get, you know. Okay, so I'm going through some documentation here, and the next thing we need to do is configure it, or and set up the project, and so forth. And we could use acceptance testing, and we could use unit testing. We're going to focus though on functional testing for now in Symfony. So I'm just going to play around with some stuff. But like I said, there's a bit of things that I need to configure, so you'll have to bear with me if things just don't work. Let me just run this file here to install it. I don't know what you're seeing at the moment. You're still seeing that. Okay, that's fine. So let's go back into the terminal here. What I'm going to do is just clear down the screen, make some room. We're still in the site directory, that's fine. And I can now run the Codeception function from bin. Hopefully, let's just clear that a minute. Let's just have a look. Let's do an ls, go into bin. Whoops. Do I have... No, I've only got the console. Okay, so I believe if I did close that down, if I did, let me see, let me do PHP bin console, and if I just didn't type anything, I'll get a list of commands. Let's see, what do I have available to me? Let's scroll up a little bit. Okay, so we have the about, the help, the assets, the caching, that's fine. Debug, that's fine. Doctrine. This is the server, so that's how I ran it beforehand. Okay, so what we need to do is apply the Codeception console script and use that. Now, there is a couple of ways we could do this. Let's close that down. Let's clear that. That script is in the vendor folder for Codeception. So if I did an ls, we can see that we have a vendor folder, and if we did ls in vendor, there is its own bin file, and in bin we should have Codecept. All right, so that is the Codeception. Now, what I could do to keep consistency is do a symlink to Codecept into the bin, or I could just run it from this path. What I'm going to try and do is what I'm going to try... Oh, I think I know what's wrong here. It's because when I installed Codeception, I didn't do it globally to the actual machine. I did it to the project, which I think is preferable in my case, because I prefer to have it tied to the application rather than tied to the machine. Just in case I alter the machine, I've got laptops and I've got servers in this office, so and they are running different global configuration, so perhaps we should just keep it in here. So what I'm going to do is just run it directly from this file at the moment. Let's bring that down, and then do a PHP in vendor bin, and it's Codecept. The command that we need is this. Now, I don't know whether this is going to put it in the wrong place. Let's just do an ls again and see. We now have Codeception in there. That's great. So that's fine. Let's cat that out and see what we've got. So that is some very basic code for Codeception, or basic configuration. So we've got tests, and we've got output and data and the support. So the tests folder would be in, if we did ls again, that would be in tests, and we have the output folder here. So that is the output. We also have the support. So that is where, can you see that this is where it's all being set in this test environment here. And we also have a set of environment variables, and we have an extension that is enabled, which is the run failed. So I think so far so good. Let's just focus on a little bit. What I'm going to do here, because I think I'm talking and there we go. Right, that's fine. Sorry, something was bleeping up on my screen. I wanted to acknowledge it. Let me go back into here. So, right, sorry, I'm clicking around. I really do need to get another screen because I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat, keeping an eye on the OBS stuff, so I can see what you guys are hopefully seeing to keep consistency. But it is just like flicking windows up and down and stuff, and it's doing my head in. I need to get another screen so I can move things across, because I've also got some notes and stuff that I'm looking at. So anyway, whatever. Pete, shut up. Get and actually start writing some code. So scroll all the way down to the bottom of this my notes here. We're going to be focusing on the functional tests for this. And the functional tests require certain different helpers and things. It depends on different bits and pieces as well. So I'm just going to play around and see if we can get some functional tests running. Now, there is a way. Let's close that down. Let's clear that down. Let's clear that screen, make it a little bit smaller. There is a way of generating functional tests as well. Well, there's a way of generating acceptance tests. There's a way of generating other tests as well. Even API tests, which is good. Yeah, which is pretty nifty. Let's just focus on functional tests. If I can't get the functional tests to work, then I'll probably fall back to acceptance tests and go directly from a browser. So that's using the browser to deal with bits and pieces. Now, the documentation says that I should run this, but in fact, what I need to do is change the path of this, because this is incorrect. I need to supply the vendor folder, so I'm just going to clear that down. It's still there, so I can use it for reference. So it's PHP, and then it's vendor, and then it is what is it? It's bin. Then it's Codeception. Then it's these two at the top here. So this is actually going to create a suite of tests, or the ability to create a suite of tests for functional tests. So we've got a functional.suite.yaml that has been created, and we can create our first functional test using this command here. I'm just going to double check and make sure that everything is in place. Let's just do an ls. We have codeception.yaml. This is in the root directory. That is fine, but I'm interested to know where they've gone and put that. Functional tests, these have all gone into there. Let's just take a look in our test directory. Here we go. We got functional suite.yaml. Let's take a look at that bad boy and see what's going on. So in tests, in functional, suite, there we go. So it is pretty simple. It's just this, and it's just saying that it has been enabled. That's fine. Let's clear that down. So far, so good. Okay, so the next thing I can do is start playing around with the configuration a little bit more and define a couple more things. I'm going to do this within PHP Storm. It's just a little bit easier to play with. So let's go to that now. Bear with me a small minute whilst I try and find where everything is again. Hang on. Right, it is this button that I want to press. There we go. Good. And I will continue going through this. Okay, so this is the composer stuff. That's fine. We're going to just ignore that for now. We're going to actually faff about with the stuff in tests. This is the functional suite.yaml. This is what we've got, but we actually need to alter this a little bit for Symfony to allow that to work. So in the enabled part, we need to have another enabled thing, which is Symfony, like so. And this will have its own sort of rule set. So here we have the app path. Oops. So this defines where the path to the app directory, which is just app, right? So if you basically, if you have installed Symfony in a different location, then you would use these to alter that as well. There's also the need for a var path as well, and again, that could be in a different directory. You might not require it in where, you know, in the current place, but this is just going to be set to var. Now these are strings, so these do need to be put in quotes like so. Okay, so we could go further with this. We could do doctrine and we could do all sorts of stuff as well, but there isn't a massive need for that. What I'm going to do though is just tidy this up a little bit. I want to put that at the bottom because I think, you know, I want to put all the stuff that will be configured most here, and then all the stuff that gets configured last at the bottom here. So if I wanted to play around with doctrine, then I would put doctrine in here. Perhaps I might do that later on. Perhaps I need to do that. I don't know. Let me just grab some more drink. Okay. So we have like a scenario, right? We need to build these scenarios, these testing scenarios. And we do this in a way that will essentially almost crawl the site. So we can play around with that a little bit. Now, what we can do is use the code to actually generate tests as well. I'll show you that now. Let's go into the terminal. Let me find that. Go into, where are we? In here. If I just went up a bit, yeah, okay. If I just ran this without any options, it will give me some options to play with, a list of options to play with. And here we have our generation files, a generation script. So we can actually generate generate suites, which we have done, but down here we can generate tests. So generates empty unit test file in the suite, and so forth. We can also do other bits and pieces as well, like different sort of dry runs, and other bits and pieces. We can also harness Gherkin if we needed to. Yeah, so we could use that if we so desired. I think it's worth noting as well that this can be used very well with other things like Laravel and the Zen framework. So it's not specific. What I'm saying is what I'm showing you isn't specifically just for Symfony. If you had other PHP stuff that you're working with, then this would work on as well. So what I'm going to do is just generate a test file, and then we'll play around and see if we can actually get something running and something working. So we've created our suite. That's fine. I'm going to start creating our testing bits now. So in tests in functional, and if I just show you this as I go through it, so in here we want to go into there. So in this folder here, I think it's highlighted on the stream, functional, this is where we put in our functional tests. We'll have another folder for unit, we'll have another folder for acceptance and all of that, and API and blah blah blah, for all the different types of tests that we might want to have. So what I would like to do is start adding some tests in here. So let's just create a new file like this, and I'm just going to do home, oops, and it needs to be in camel case, obviously. So home, and we're just going to do CEST because this is the Codeception way of creating tests.php. And in here, yeah, I do want to put it into to get in here. In this file, we're going to add some bits and pieces to enable us to actually test. So it needs to be a class. So it's class, and it needs to match the name of the file name. So home CEST. Did that come out as PHP? Why? Hang on. Normally, there we go. Normally it comes up with it knows that you're writing PHP, so it puts that up. Anyway, whatever. I don't know why that didn't happen. So these need to be public methods. So public and function, and we're going to just type try homepage, right? Try home. Just do try home, and it takes this method here. It takes an argument which is the functional tester. Now the functional tester has been defined in here as a helper. All right, functional so as an actor. That's what I should have said. Sorry. It takes the actor, which is the functional tester. You'll have a different actor for like the API. You'll have a different actor for unit tests and so forth. So here I'm just trying to sort of go through it sort of as thoroughly as I can. So here we've got functional tester. We pass that in as I. Okay, so in this kind of style of testing, you're saying I am on page, I am clicking this button, or I fill in this field. So it's very verbose, which is really, really good. So the first one is just I, and then we do am. Whoops, oh dear. I am on, and then page, and you can do / like that. Now that will fail if the page doesn't exist, which means that I can create my own, a whole series of tests to try out these routes. So let's just save that. Now I could do another test, perhaps PHP, and I can do. Let's think. We have contact. Whoops. Let's not shout that. Contact. CES. Blah blah blah. That should come up as PHP. Good. Not sure what the first one was worrying about. But hey ho. And this is going to be contact. So they're going to be very similar, but they are going to be used like almost like a foundation. And the reason why I'm putting these in their own files is because I want to sort of isolate each functional test for each page. Okay. So anyway, that's two that I've created. You can see here that we have a little C. That means that PHP Storm already knows that this is Codeception. I haven't configured this version of PHP Storm that I've got on my iMac here with Codeception to the fullest. I might do that later on. I might even do a video whilst I do that later. But for now, I'm just going to focus on the command line. I think it's very important to test things out using the command line first, as raw as you possibly can get it. I talk about this a lot when I talk about connecting to MySQL through PHP. You want to make sure that you can do that through the command line rather than just jump in and do it in PHP or do it in Python or whatever. Because if you can't do it through the command line, then you're not going to be able to do it through PHP, and you'll be able to, once you've done it through the command line, you'll be able to use that as configuration and so forth. I've talked about all of that before, but I just thought I would drop that in. Okay, so we've got 2 tests running here. One will work, one won't. This should be contact, because this one should work because we do have a a home page on Symfony. There is a page to go to, but we don't have a page to go to on this one. And like for the other ones, we won't have pages for those either. Now, what I would like to do is just attempt this. Now, this is where I think this might go wrong, but we'll just play around. We'll just have a little play. So I'm just reading some documentation here, just sort of getting to grips with this. I must admit, I haven't used this. The reason why I'm a little bit sort of skeptical is I haven't used this with this version of, I haven't used Codeception with this version of Symfony 3. I've been working on legacy versions of, I say legacy versions, sort of 2.8 kind of versions of Symfony. So I'm a little bit hesitant as to whether this will work or not. So you'll just have to bear with me a minute whilst I go through and check some bits and pieces out. I just want to make sure that there isn't any sort of like, and if you're using Symfony 3, then do this sort of thing. So I think it all looks good, I think. So I'm going to just try it out. Okay, so what I can do in the command line, if I just go back to that now, which is here, I can start running some commands to find that out. One of the reasons why I don't want to be using acceptance tests right now is I want to have the ability to not have the web server fully working right now, because bare minimum specifications and so forth. But I might have to do that. I might have to bring up another tab with keep the server running. I don't know. But anyway, let's just run some things and make sure that this actually works. So PHP and its vendor. I'll just make sure that is running on the stream. Yep. Vendor, and then it is bin, and then Codeception. We're going to do a dry run, and we're going to do functional. Now that hopefully should pick up all of the functional tests. So let's just run that and see. And nope, we have some errors. This is what I thought was going to happen. So we have trait errors. Okay, that's interesting. I might have to look some of these up. Let's see if I can run a single file first. So that was kind of a little bit functional, and then we can do what was one of the tests? It was home CEST. Nope. Okay, so there is an issue. There is an underlying issue here. I'm wondering whether this is the version of Symfony 3 or whether I just haven't configured it correctly. There's a problem here. Maybe I'll try it without the dry run. And just do run instead. Yeah, okay, so that has worked. So that is, I'm going to have to look into this dry run thing. That's a bit very peculiar. Maybe there is an issue here. If there is, then I will look into it, and I'll perhaps, if it's not a problem with what I've configured, then I might issue if I can get my words out, issue on the GitHub. But there's lots of testing that I need to do first before I even consider that. But this is the output. This is the home page. And I guess if we removed this, it would run all of them, and one of them will fail, hopefully, although that's saying that has worked. Contact cess, that's a bit odd. Let me just double check some of this. Did I actually set that to all of that? Maybe the I am doesn't just doesn't come back. Maybe that is just too little of a test to be required. That's probably why, isn't it? It's probably why. Let me see. Really, what I want to do is get the status code. So what you could do, let me just double check on here. We're back onto the to there. So that was a red herring. But what I could do is improve this a little bit and do I want to see, look forward, just running through here. I am HTTP authenticated. Interesting. I can see, I can click. Okay, so we might have to put in maybe a title tag to just ensure that something has come through. I can see text, I can move, I have HTTP header, so you could check for a HTTP header. Possibly that might work, because you could check for for headers coming through. That might work. I can delete a header. I don't want to do that. I can check options. Maybe I can see a link. That's quite an interesting job. And then you can do I can't see. That's clever, isn't it? So you can do I can and I can't. I am on page, blah blah blah. I am on route, blah blah blah. I am on route. That's interesting as well. Let's do that. That's as another test. So this should be page hyphen contact. So this is our contact page. Let's just run this and see if that works at all. Here we go. So now we're getting into it. Now we're starting to get into it. Let's get into the terminal window. I've just ran that, and because the route isn't found, page contact, then it's saying that it can't actually access that page, which is basically what I'm looking for here. It probably hasn't found that because I haven't got the actual web server running, so that's whatever, that's fine. But that just ensures that we're on the right route. So let's just check some more bits and pieces out. Let's go back into here. In app here we have config, and we should have routing, and we've got holding, which is the holding bit, which is those tabs that I showed you before. But this should be page and then underscore and then maybe home. So what I would like to do is just change that to be page underscore home. Save, and then in where are we? Not in there. In home, we can do I am en route. Put that in like that. Let's try this out again. Let's do an ls. Let's see, do I need to take out? Bear with me 2 seconds. Let's see if I can do that. Clear down the screen. Running it again. All right. I'm just going to bring up, just give me a minute. I'm just going to bring up the web server again, just to try something out. So let's do, so I need to be in here, I think. Yep. And I need to be in Apache and the site. And I need to do PHP, what am I doing? PHP bin, and then it's console, and then it's server :run, just to get that running. Okay. So in the config routing, so let's put that back to what it was. Z. Holding, copy the U, save that. Go back into the test, which is here. Change that to that one. Save that. And then run the tests again. Interesting. Interesting. Config routing dev. That's fine. That's fine. Unless it's something else. Let's have a look. In holding, whoops, holding controller. That's fine. That's also fine. In app. Hang on. Hold on. I need to be in here. There we go. Holding resources, config routing, holding homepage. That's probably what's going on. Save that. Go into where are we? What folder do we tests? And we do functional. Let's just set that correctly and see if that now works. There we go. Right. Okay. Now I've just noticed that that I'm flicking between the home page and so forth. Sorry, the PHP Storm and the terminal. What I've done is I've just enabled this to run, just so I can see any errors coming through. And here I've ran that. I've set the home page to be the right route, but the contact page, the route doesn't exist yet. So that is why we're failing. So now we have the ability to create some tests that ensure that these routes work, these pages are accessible, and so forth in a very basic raw form. So I can continue creating some more of these tests. These tests don't actually do a lot of things. So I might want to put in like a title tag or something that just has like a page name, and ensure that that exists. Perhaps I should have done this more as an acceptance test rather than a functional test, because actually there isn't any functionality to test at the moment. Oops, I just pressed a button on my foot. So maybe I should have done these as acceptance tests. But anyway, we're going to continue as is. We're going to check that there is a title tag. So what I will do is actually add some bits and pieces to these functional tests later on. I'll probably do these in a minute. But what I'm going to do is just continue with these tests. I'll continue adding these pages in. So we have functional and home, and I'm just going to go into the Trello board again. because I can't remember what the other pages were called. This is why it's so good to have documentation. So we've homepage, contact page, shop, courses, and YouTube. All right, so what we need to do in the terminal here, not terminal, in here, let me just double check a couple of things, and then go into here, make sure that that is running on the stream, which it is. Cool. What I can simply do is copy and paste this, which is just copy and paste this into here, and do contact cess. This is going to be shop, like so, and so the shop will be like this, shop, and it will be page shop, shop, and we're also going to have another one, which is going to be, whoops, courses, and again that's page courses, and that is slash courses, and again that needs to be changed to courses, and have another one. I mean, again, like I said, this could all be in one file, and these could all be in like a page cest type thing. But I might do that. I might find that that's an easier way to work with. But I've kept them in separate files for now, because it means that I can actually do some targeted testing for each of these pages without having to worry about breaking them out of different classes and stuff. Breaking them down into the granular levels like this is easier for future proofing, although you might think it's slightly overkill. So we have YouTube as the last one. YouTube. Again, that is going to be YouTube as decided in the Trello. Again, that's page YouTube, and this here is going to be YouTube, like so. Okay, so now we should have a bunch of things that fail, which is what we're after. We want to have failing tests to begin with, and then we're going to start building these things and trying these things out. So let's just see if we go back to the terminal here, which is that one. Let's just bring that up, run this again, and we should have a bunch of stuff that fails. So we do. We have the YouTube has failed. The shop has failed, the contact has failed, the courses has failed, and so forth, which is basically everything we want apart from the homepage, because the homepage is currently running, which is fantastic. It means that we now have a foundation to work from. Again, if I was to do this differently, it would probably be through an acceptance test rather than a functional test. But anyway, I just want to make that point clear. Now, the next thing I can do is actually start. Well, I can either start building these pages, or I can ensure that there are other things to check. So perhaps I want to make sure that there is a title tag on each of these, which has a certain word in it, maybe, and we can do that. And if I go back to the home page here, we can do I in uppercase, I see. And you can put in certain things to see, so elements and all of that, bits and pieces and stuff. So I see in the title, that's the one I was looking for. I see in title, the title I'm going to just have as how, for now, how to code well, and then we're just going to do a pipe, just do homepage for now, right, as the title. Oops, next one, let's just grab that over here. Next one, I'm going to do in courses, very much the same, but we're just going to do learn, if I can spell it, learn how to program. Now these titles I will change when we are ready to launch. But just for now, I'm just going to put them as is. This is going to be just contact just contact, sod it. Oh, that's fine. Save, and we've got shop. And in YouTube, okay, the YouTube channel, like so. All right, so these are very basic ones, and again, I I must apologize because you guys haven't seen any of that. That was so bad of me. If I go back, because you're still in the terminal window, what I was doing, I see in title here. So I've put this in all the different files. So how to code well, watch the YouTube channel. That is the title. In the shop, I've got buy programming books and courses. Home is just the home page. Courses is learn how to program. Contact is just contact. I will change all of these when we decide to go live, but for now this is fine. And again, if I did the this is just something else for this functional test to check. All right, so we're checking that we're on this page. We're checking that we're on that route. We're checking that this title exists. Now, what we can do is just run the terminal again, run this again. And now we should see quite a lot more things fail. Let's try that. So there we go. They all fail, and they all fail because the home page has failed now because the what am I trying to say? Get it out, Pete. The title is wrong. However, I've just noticed here that we have homepage CST. And on page YouTube, that's not right, is it? So let's go back to here. Let's have a look and see what's going on. Holding homepage. Not sure why that's come up as. Oh, I see. That no, that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. All right. So what we need to do, let's just save all of this stuff. That's fine. Of course, I am on page, I am on route. It's failing because those pages don't actually exist yet, so that's fine. That's no problem. Okay, so let's now go and start building this thing. Let's actually start working through creating these. So what I'm going to do very quickly is just or I could, there is a number of ways I could do this. I could create a bundle for specific pages, so like a bundle for the home page, a bundle for the contact page, and so forth, but I think that is overkill. Don't need to do that. These pages aren't that, for now, terribly complicated. So I could just put them in the app directory, right? I could just put all of this stuff in the app directory. That's perfectly fine. Or I could create a bundle specifically for pages, so or for page, and then have routes within that page bundle that represent all of these things. However, there is an app bundle that is perfectly fine, and all I've done is just change the word app or page to app, and that's, I think that is pretty acceptable for what it is that I wish to achieve here. So we have this app bundle here. Let's go up to in SRC app bundle. Excuse me. It's got a default controller. We could have like a page controller maybe on that. Let's just make sure that the OBS stream is running. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so we could have a page controller, and then in here we could have different methods for each page. There's a lot of ways you can configure this. There's a lot of ways that you can alter this, and that's, you know, it's all down to the requirements at the time. Now, at the moment, the requirements are very, very simple. It is literally get these pages running with perhaps a title tag. So there will be some twig because I need to put in a title. which is fine. So I could get away with just putting them in, in app here. I could just get away with putting in a different views in these things, and then inherit the base thing. I did put the holding bundle in here, which is the page, the bundle for the holding thing, and I think I'm going to continue with that that way for the moment, especially for the holding page. Here's the tabs and everything. That's fine. So we have like a default controller. But what I'm going to do off the bat is here we're just going to create a new controller, and we're just going to call this page controller. We're just going to try and keep things as simple as possible for now. There's no point in overkilling it straight away. Especially when I'm still trying to decide how this is actually going to look and feel and behave and have user interaction and all that kind of jazz. So let's try and keep things as simple as possible. I don't know why. There we go. It seems to not pick that out. So the default controller, we'll just show you here, it is very, very simple. Very, very simple. And what I can do is just copy that, put that into here. We're not going to worry too much about that for now. We can change that to be page controller. That is fine. It's using the request. That's all right. Now it's going into default index. So that default index is actually up here. So we have default and then index. So in views, I could have another directory in here, and we could give it the name of the page. So here we have home. We also have home. We also have another one. We're just going to call this shop. Now I can foresee that in the future we might want to have a shop bundle specifically for shop. We're certainly going to have a bundle or bundles for the admin area at the very least. But today we're just going to keep it nice and simple. So homepage, shop, also the contact. We're also going to have another one specifically for so home, contact. I'm just trying to remember YouTube, and there was courses too, like that. Okay, so what I can do is just get rid of this default. So I'm going to remove that. Boom, boom. Okay, and I can remove that default controller as well. Boom, boom. That's fine. It's just saying that it's been occurrences has found it. That's fine. That's okay. Although, are you going to prevent me from deleting it? Don't do a safe search. That's fine. Boom. So I'll probably have to fiddle around with the configuration a little bit to make this a little bit more acceptable, but that needs to be spelt correctly at the very least. So that's page controller. Now in here we have the different routes for the different pages. So we have index action, which is the home page. You could class that as home, right? So you could have that as home like this, just to keep it consistent. But index usually means that it is the home page. So I might put that back for now, just to keep it going on with the standards. Next one here, again, that needs to be home. And we won't worry too much about this, the twig at the moment. I want to do this functions first, and then we're going to get into the twig later on. This is actually passing in the base directory as an optional parameter. Now you don't need to do this, certainly not. So I'm going to remove that as well. So it is literally just that. I'm going to remove that line too, so make it nice and simple. Let's just copy this like so and put that in here. So that was a home page. This is going to be let's just do contact page. So this is just contact action, and that's going to go into contact like so. We're going to have another one, which again, very simple, is just YouTube like this, YouTube. Again, that's going to be YouTube. Another one. And this one is going to be, have I done contact? I'm trying to remember. YouTube, contact, yeah, I've done contact. So courses as well. So that's in here. Now, I'm not a fan of having pluralized words in code. You know, it's a course, and you have a collection of courses, you know. But for now, just going to keep it as simple as possible. I'll worry about that later on, maybe when I do a refactor. So we've got courses, YouTube, contact, homepage. Was there anything else? Let me just double check before I save that. Let's go back into Trello and see. We have, oops, wrong one. Homepage, contact, shop, courses, and YouTube. Do I have shop? Do I have shop? Let's go back into here. Courses, YouTube, contact, index. No, I don't have shop. So let's add shop in. Now, one thing that I haven't done, shop, like that. Okay, whoops, there we go. Shop, like so. Right, one thing I haven't done is altered the roots. Okay, so the roots are still using these annotations. Now, I could change this and actually put in the roots, in here. Okay, so I could actually, so this is app, this is running in this, and it's running off of the back of annotation. Now, actually, what I'm going to do is just to keep consistency, and I'm going to use YAML. This could change later on. It's just there's a lot of configuration that we've got in YAML. I'm not a fan of having configuration in different configuration formats. So if I'm using YAML, that's across the board, then that would be far easier, even though YAML has its own problems. But I'm certainly not going to get into that now. But in here, we have the difference between that and this is that that is running off of annotation. This is running off of the default. This is the default here. So resources, config, routing.yaml, which is just like that. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put that, put page controller. I'm going to remove all of these annotations. And first of all, what I need to do, I'm going a little bit fast. I do apologize. In routing, I'm going to change that from annotation. Because it's the default, we don't need to worry too much. We're just going to put prefix in here, like so. And we're going to just remove, or at the very least, hide this. So we're going to, just comment these out. We're going to comment out the holding for now. So now we're in here in app like this. We need to have another folder for resources. We need to have another folder in here called config. If I can spell it, that'd be great. Config. Come on, config. And I'm just going to double check a couple of things. It's fine. No worries. Okay, I'm trying to go sort of as quick but as slow as possible, if that makes sense, to just try and explain a couple of things, because I do need to crack on with the rest of my day. But we have config. We're going to copy that from here. That's fine. Yep, that's fine. And so this is going to be page. This is going to be all the routing. So page, homepage, and that is going to be app bundle. That's the controller, app bundle, and it's going to be page, and it's going to be running off of the index. So we should now have a homepage, and that should be running into resources, views, should be going into home. And in home, we should have an index file, not an index file, a file, which I can just copy quickly from public not public, views index.html. So I'm just going to copy that file, push this up to the top here into home, like that. Yep, that's fine. And it's going to extend this base file. This is the body, that's fine, that's all good. But I'm going to remove a couple of bits and pieces because we don't need this. This is all for the holding page, that's fine. So we're going to remove the JavaScript block, that's okay. We're going to remove that, we don't need that. We're going to remove, I did all of this like so. What we do need to do is define the title tag. I'm going to save that, but I'm just going to double check a couple of things. So I'm just going to put in H1, or yeah, sorry, H1, and go home. And I'm just going to double check that that is actually running. I can actually access that before I run the test, just to ensure that I have wired everything up as best as I could. So let's go into here. Okay, now obviously it's going to complain because what Symfony does is it loads the roots, ensures that everything is it correctly first, and then it's going to and if that is the case, then it will display the pages. But in this case, none of the roots are actually in effect, or at least the home pages at the very least. So I need to alter all of those as well, which I'm going to do now. So let's just go back into here, scroll down, scroll, page controller. We can get rid of these annotations now. We can get rid of all of this. This isn't required anymore because we're going to use YAML. So I can remove all of that, remove all of that, remove all of that, and fine. Okay. Okay, so now it's saying there is a problem, can't actually access the file, the root. Let me just see if there's anything else I can play with. So that's index. Just double check my thinking on all this. So that is resources. That's spelled correctly. Down in here we have config, and I've literally just configured that to be page home page. Going to the app bundle, which is here. Going into page controller, which is here, which is fine. Going into the index, which is looking for home index as the view, which is home and index, like so. So there's obviously something wrong with the way in which I've gone and wired this up. So in here, okay, yeah, of course, I haven't actually said where the routing file is here. Let me just, I can't remember whether, yeah, that's fine. All right, so that needs to go resources config routing.yaml. Let's save that and have another look. Of course, it's not in controller. It's just app bundle, which is here. Let's show you here. App bundle, then resources, then config, then routing. So save that. Take another look. There we go. Right, so in the browser now, I just have that. That is what's being displayed as the home page. Now, the reason why we have this here, we have the home, we have this part here, and we have this sidebar, is because what we're doing in the tutorial, here we go, in the actual view, which is not that, this, we are extending the base HTML, which is this here. Base HTML is this part here, and this part has the aside bit, which is the adverts on the right hand side, and it's also got the logo here. So by extension, we are basically including all of this stuff, and we are putting in the word home within this block here. Okay, so what we could do, or what we should do at the very least, is have a title in here. So let's remove that title like that and call that a block of title. And that's going to add the title for us. Let's save that. Now go into the index page. Also include title, and then, whoops, like that. And the title here is what we had in our testing, which is, just trying to remember what it was. Not that, I don't need that anymore. In tests, in functional tests, in home, it is this. So we're going to say, copy that, put that into that file, into there, and there you go. So that should now come out as the homepage title. Let's save that. I'm just going to put that into, just remove any white space along that. So I'm going to go back into the browser here, refresh the page, and you can't actually see it, but what I'm going to do is just load up the web inspector to show you. In the head, we have this here, how to code well. It's probably really tiny, but that says how to code well. Then we have a pipe, and then homepage. That is what is being defined in the title tag, in the title block. Sorry. So what I'm going to do is just try a couple more things out until I'm really happy with it. So let's go back to here. So I just double checked the stream, and yeah, it's just really laggy. I don't know why. Like, it's not where I am at the moment. Morning to Wolf Design. I hope you're well. Hope you're well. It's really wet English weather I've got here. It's pretty rank. Right. Okay, so let's see what has happened there. So we got homepage, try home. I am on root with name. Okay, yeah, okay, no. So I just tried the terminal again, and we've got this part here. It failed, and it's saying that the holding page doesn't exist, and that's because I've gone and commented it out. So I'm just going to run through that again. That was, scroll down. So homepage, we've got that set to homepage, holding homepage, and that isn't what we want. We actually want to have the routing of this to be page homepage, not holding page. Holding page is what we had beforehand, so we don't need that. So let's go back into here, run that again, and I'm just going to quickly run the test again, see if that worked. And it did. So let's go, oh, sorry, I didn't show you that. Let's go back to here. Sometimes I forget that I'm streaming. I'm just blasting my way through. Not that I talk to myself. That would just be insane. So yeah, that worked. So that worked fine, because we have all the bits and pieces set up. So now we have the ability to fix these tests. We have a lot of failing tests, and we can fix all these now by creating these pages and by putting in the title tag. The title tag here, if I can show you. So where it says C in title, if I was to change that to this one, like that, right, and then run this again, it should fail. It should fail because the title tag has changed. So I'm just going to run that, and yes, you can see the homepage has failed. So we now have the ability to dive into the DOM and actually see, actually see elements in the DOM, actually see code in the DOM, not code, content in the DOM, and see if that works. So that's pretty nifty. What I'm going to do then is just quickly whiz through the rest. So we've got these to fix up. Now, I'm going to just blast through this. So, homepage, we have page, YouTube. Of course, none of it's going to work if it's spelled incorrectly. So that's YouTube. YouTube. Then we're going to have another one. We're going to call this, contact. And they need to be like so, have colons on the end. That's going to be contact. Contact, like so. Next one is shop, I believe. And the last one is courses. So shop, like this. Goes to shop. And then, Magic Mouse is starting to fade. Shop and then courses, like that. There we go, save that. Okay. Hey Slayerdarth, how are you doing? Does it sound distorted? Oh man, this sucks. Sorry about that. I hope it. I'll see if I can change anything in post, but I hope. I did tweak a couple of bits and pieces. When you say distorted, are you able to give me any kind of information as to what is distorted? You know, does it sound like it's too high, too low, all that kind of jazz? I'll just double check. Although, you know, I've already streamed for like 2 hours, so there's not a lot I can do now. The levels seem to be okay. Yeah, this is in Symfony. This is in Symfony 3. So, okay, so I've done all of that. That's fine. Now I need to actually add, and I've created all of these things. That's fine. Next thing I need to do is, what do I need to do? I need to create the actual indexes in each one of these. So we can copy that, just put that into there. That's fine. Yes. Into there. Yes. That's fine. And into there. So, yes, blah, blah, blah. Come on. Come on. Awesome. Now, the thing I need to change in each one of these is going to be the title in each one of these. And I can't remember, for the life of me, what title I've defined in the tests. So I'm going to jump through these again. So let's work on contact first. Double click that. There we go. So that is going to be contact page. Contact. And the title is in contact. We can change that to be that thing here. Save that. Scroll up. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Next one. Oh, it's too high. Right. I'll reduce the. Shall I whisper? Shall I whisper? I will reduce the gain a little bit. Oh, fantastic! You're working on your. I can imagine everyone just with the volume down, and now they're like, it's really quiet. So, yeah, cool. You're doing it in Jekyll. Wonderful, awesome. I am happy with Jekyll, although I think I've pushed it to the limits to what I need. In the sense of, I really do need a content management system. But it's very, very useful for portfolios. That you're working on, because you know, you can put that, you can attach that to GitHub. You can use GitHub pages like that, so all your commit messages will effectively perform a deployment of your portfolio, of your blog. So yeah, awesome. So that was contact. What else? So courses, scrolling down a little bit further. Yeah, it's completely overkill for a portfolio site, I think, and microsites and stuff. A lot of my clients are like, can't you just do this in WordPress? And I'm like, how many times are you going to be changing this website? You know, tell me, how many times are you going to alter text in a website over the course of a week? And if they say, we won't change the content for, like, you know, 6 months. And I'm like, well, there's no point. I'll give you a static site and you call me back in 6 months to change it. You know, that's fine. But I think there is a for freelancers at least, there is this element of being of giving your clients something that they are in control of. And I think that there is a monetary thing there. If you can give them something that they have control of, even if they're not going to use it, that makes them feel more comfortable than something that they have to then contact you in 6 months' time to get adjusted. So there is what I'm trying to say is that there is different influences in those decisions, and I do try and say, look, I can do it cheaper and quicker if it's in a static site, if you're not going to change this frequently. But a lot of them just say, you know, we would like it into WordPress because we would like to have the opportunity to do all this stuff. But whatever. I mean, you know my feeling towards WordPress. Anyway, /rant. We're on courses. That's fine. Now home page. Scroll down to. Home. Nope. So we've done home. That's what I can't remember. So that's done. Courses isn't done. Oh, right. So there we go. Courses. This is what happens when I start rambling. I forget what I've coded. Scroll up to the top. And this is courses. That is that. Save that. Change that to be courses, like so. And I guess what I could do in Codeception is I could test for that as well. Although the thing is that I'm not sure whether I will have these kind of this text. And I certainly aren't sure how the DOM will be structured. However, I can guarantee that every page will have a title tag. So that's how we can try that out. Yeah. Oh, and also when you've got WordPress, Slayerdarth, it's and you've got clients who have WordPress, and then you're aware of a WordPress security issue like the one that they've had recently. You obviously feel as a good programmer that you need to warn the client, look, you need to update your site. Especially if you're not managing it, if it's a site that you've done and you've just kind of given it to them, you feel obliged to call them up. It's your kind of like obligated to call them up and say, look, you need to update your WordPress site. The thing is that you can get into an argument about, well, if it's a security feature, then surely that's your problem. You need to, and it does take time to do it, right? Because you need to test the damn thing. And half the time, these websites aren't updated because if the client updates it themselves, then they won't update it. They won't update. They don't know what to do half the time. So, and they get afraid and they call you up. But again, it's this whole sort of relationship with the client. It's sort of, warning them that there is security risks, warning them that just because I've built you a website doesn't mean that it's finished. Websites are never finished. They're always constantly need to be updated because of security issues, because of updates, because of hardware updates and changes and so forth. It's not something you can just buy off the shelf and give to someone and say, yeah, done and dusted, kippers and custard, that is there. That's finished. Not going to happen. But trying to get that across to a client can be quite difficult. And it can come across that you're trying to just make money out of them, because you can say, look, it's going to take me X amount of time to update your WordPress site. And initially they'll be thinking, well, I'm not actually getting any new features from this. I'm just getting a security update. And chances are I won't get hacked. Chances are they will get hacked. But do you know what I mean? It's sort of that there is this salesman-y type thing that they will feel very defensive about. So you have to explain to them, look, it's going to cost you a lot more money if your site does get hacked than it does if it doesn't get hacked, you know, you'll be on the phone to me badgering me because you've gone and, you know, screwed up the configuration if you've done an update yourself, or all of that stuff. And then you start getting into the darker depth of backups and saying, look, have you backed up your site? And they go, no. You're like, well, good. If you know, it's the removal of responsibility. And yeah, whatever. Anyway, maybe I should talk about that more in maybe a web chatty type thing. But that is certainly a topic for managed and self-managed websites and stuff. But I have totally forgotten my trail of thought with this title tag. Let me just double check. So that's index, that's fine. And then so that's in courses. Yeah, that's fine. And then home, that is just there. And that is that's fine. And then scrolling, shop. Grab that up and then go into here, into there. Change this to be shop, like so. Shop. Scroll down a little bit further, and then we have YouTube. I think that's the last one. Copy that up to here. There we go. Right, so hopefully, and let's just change that to be YouTube, just for consistency. Hopefully, this will all pass. But it probably won't. It probably won't. Let me just try that. Bring that into play. Changing that to be that window. I will invest in another screen. That is going to be on my things to invest in for 2018. Right. Let's run this again and see what has actually happened. So not a lot has actually worked. Scroll up. So what's going on with his contacts? So see in blah blah blah, page contains how to code well. See in title, page title contains how to code well contact. How odd. That's not right, is it? See in title that, page contact. And then the next one down here, again, there's an issue with the courses as well. Page title contains how to code well, learn to program. And you're on the homepage still. So I think, whoa. Magic mouse went a little bit high then. Let's just double check what the browsers actually say. Let's go back to here. This is the browser log. That looks fine. Let's actually go and see if we can actually access these pages. Let's go back to the browser here, which is like that. And I can change this to be / remember contact. Okay, this is probably why it doesn't work, because it can't access these pages for some reason. So contact, let's do YouTube. That probably doesn't work either. Nope. And I'm guessing shop doesn't. What's probably causing it is whatever it is. It's probably a consistent thing. I can't see this changing. Let me just see. Let's go back into the code and have a little nosy and see what is actually going on. So let's just first of all double check that our routes are correct. So we go into config here, into routing. That's going into routing.yaml, which is fine. That scrolls down into here, goes into the app. That's in tests, into src, app bundle, resources, routing, and we have all of this. So page, homepage. Can you see what's going on here? I haven't actually defined these routes. That's why. This is what happens when you rush. This is what happens when you rush. So contact, this is going to be shop. This is going to be courses, like so. Save that, refresh all the things. Let's have a little look. Go back into the browser. Refresh all the things, and yet we've got shop. Does that mean that we have contact? Whoops. So if I can spell that, that would be marvelous. There we go. So that looks good. I'm going to just run the tests again and see if those tests actually worked. So let's go back into the terminal, if I can find it. You can see all the requests that are being made here, and these are all coming back as 200 OK, which is good. Let's go back into here and then just run that and see what happens. So yes, all of them has passed. So that is kind of a very basic way of kind of TDDing routes and stuff. So you decide what the routes are first, and then you write some tests to ensure those routes will exist. And there's some things that you do check on. So title is kind of a consistent tag, and that's something that I would certainly recommend to try, especially when you're doing the functional testing like this. Now, later on, we might want to add some other bits and pieces to this, some different common elements, maybe. You got to remember, just because the page has worked doesn't mean that the elements on the page have worked. All right. I'm talking about Ajax now. So if you've got something that is coming in through Ajax, then you have to make sure that works as well. Just because the actual page is a 200 OK doesn't mean that the elements that are dynamically being added to that page work as well. They might not. I don't know why it's saying try contact, try home. Is it because I've gone and called the same method, called the method the same? Let's have another look. Let's just double check that. So closing that, go into tests, go into functional here, contact. So that's try contact. Yeah, I've gone and called them the same. Let's go and fiddle with that and make sure courses again, if I can spell it, that'd be marvelous. And then that's try home, that's try contact, that's try shop, and that's try YouTube. YouTube. Right, that's cool. Now let's just run those tests again, ensure that that hasn't broken anything, although I don't think it would have. So there we go. Try contact, courses, home, shop, YouTube, and they've all passed. So hip hip hooray. That is exactly where I want to be. I'm going to go now into Trello. Well, actually what I'll do, yeah, I'll go into Trello and go into here. Gonna just move these both to done. Gonna just go boom, 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 boom. That's all done. That's all good. Pretty happy with that. Click on that. Boom. There we go. So all of those tests have passed. Those pages have been created. I'm going to be playing around with the those pages and how they look and what they're copy and all of that stuff. I'll give that some thought over this weekend, and then maybe next week we can focus on that a little bit more and maybe look at another one of these things here. Obviously responsive for mobile. I'll need to have a layout for that, obviously. That newsletter sign up I don't think is terribly difficult because I'm going to use a third party for that. And the minification of resources, that's actually happening already in the holding bundle, but I'm not using the holding bundle, so I'm going to keep that there and so forth. But I'll probably add to this as the week progresses. Yeah, so just going through the chat again. Yeah, Slaredarth has mentioned that WordPress also uses jQuery by default. I want to try and keep away from frameworks as much as possible. I know we're using Symfony, but front-end frameworks. I don't think the JavaScript is going to be too heavy on this, although I say that there is some JavaScript in the holding page. If you go to the howtocodewell.net, you'll see that there is some tabs that you can click through and stuff, but that isn't jQuery. I'll just show you quickly. If I go to the browser here, so that's our local version of it, but if I go to here, that is the live version, and the live version has these tabs, and these tabs are not jQuery. These tabs I created. Okay, you don't need jQuery for tabs. You used to need jQuery like a couple of years ago if you wanted to do anything like this, but you don't now. So much has changed and evolved in JavaScript with ES6 that a lot of people, I feel, now this is just my opinion, a lot of people have, how can I say this nicely? Because I wanted to say this nicely. There is no reason why I shouldn't say this nicely, but I'm just trying to think of the right terms. A lot of developers that I've seen or have been aware of, including myself in some regard, have been left behind because they have got themselves so focused in a framework, a jQuery framework or another framework, that they haven't realized that these features of ES6 and not just ES6, just other things that have come along, have happened, and the stuff that they are using in the framework they don't necessarily need to use. And I certainly felt like this when ES6 sort of came along and I was like focusing in jQuery. I wasn't paying attention to what was coming in. So there is a danger of just being so blinkered in, I'm just going to do it in this framework and that is it. You start learning the framework far more than you start learning the language. And I think that is very dangerous. So you just need to, bring your head up above the water sometime. But the thing is that I have said in a previous web chat about why web development is so difficult, it's because it evolves so often. And JavaScript is the most evolving part of web development, I feel, in terms of the programming languages, because it is constantly changing, constantly reinventing itself for the better. But that's still that's still quite a challenge. It's still quite a challenge, and if you're focusing solely on jQuery, then it is very tempting to just not learn anything else. Not know how to select elements in or manipulate the DOM using just raw JavaScript. But that's just my opinion. Okay, that's just my opinion, and I have very strong opinions on frameworks and when to use them and when not to use them, and so forth. But anyway, whatever. I'm going to shoot off now because I've been going for like 2 hours and 26 minutes, and my bladder is the size of a football. But I will certainly looking forward to the next one. I like the way this is progressing, even though it's really slow. But this feels like a move forward. But thanks ever so much for watching. I apologize about the audio. I'll take a look at it in post. I was playing around with some videos the other day, so I have tweaked all of this setup, so I've probably screwed it up somewhere, knowing me. But thanks ever so much for watching, guys. Happy coding, and I will see you shortly, some point next week, maybe. Take care, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.